Welcome to Cozy Joe Show. I am going to teach you how to make a custom name doily, step by step, just like this. So the first thing you need to decide for step one is to decide what your project is going to be, so you can get a general idea of what your final project is going to be. Do you want it to be square? Do you want it to be tapered on the end? Do you want a border? Do you want extra little designs in with your pattern? Get an idea of what you want so you know which direction to go. Now, just some general information. This is step two. This is so you'll know which way the pattern is headed. So your finished work will look something like this, and you need to split it down the middle in your pattern. Well, this is how the pattern is going to work. And then we'll work from the middle towards each end. And that's how it's going to build. I find it easier to work that way instead of just working straight across like this because it helps to get those tapered ends to do it that way. Step three is you need to find an alphabet that you want to use, and there are plenty of these online to choose from. You can get fancy like that or cursive-ish. You know, there's all kinds that you can choose from. I have chosen this pattern for the pattern that I'm working on for the Hello Doily, and it's just simple, easy alphabet. Pay attention to the number of how many blocks wide and tall your letters are, because it's going to affect your measurements and the size of your project. So just going on what you have in mind for how you want your finished product to look might determine the height and width of the alphabet that you choose. Step four, gather your chart grafting supplies. So you'll need a pencil and an eraser. An extra eraser you'll probably need. Some graph paper with the large squares on it, and some notebook paper in case you need to jot down some notes and measurements and stitch counts and such as that, because there's a little math that's going to be involved. Step five is doing the math for your project. Now, why are we doing this? And this is so you can find out how many starting chains you need to do. And that is not a major issue, because if you do too many chains, you can always just cut that off. And if we have that issue, I'll show you how. But you don't want to end up with not enough because it'll look funny. So what you want to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, how many columns wide your letters are. And so hello is 26 squares across, and then you need to decide how many blocks of open mesh you want between your letters. I always go with 1 column of open mesh like they have on here between their letters. It's just a nice spacing. Now, if you're doing more than one word, like good morning or something like that, you might want to put 2 or 3 columns of open mesh between the words so it doesn't all run together. Okay, so that leaves us with 26 columns wide for our letters, plus 4, because I want 1 open mesh row between each letter, so that equals 30. That's how many columns wide it's going to be. Now, we're going to have to locate the middle, and we know that's going to be somewhere around the 15th column. We'll do that when we actually start grafting, but it's good to wrap your mind around it now. Step 6. Now, before we go any farther with our charting, you're going to have to understand the open mesh pattern. And there's an open mesh and a closed mesh, and we're going to be working back and forth between the two. The open mesh pattern, it consists of 3 stitches, okay? And when it's written out, it's going to be double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. That's how it looks written. Now, if I'm going to write it in symbols, it's double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Okay, because a lot of times when you're working filet crochet, that's how it's going to be charted. Now on the graph paper, when you're writing your own pattern, an open mesh is just an open square on your graph paper. Now, if you're going to do 2 open mesh, written it's double crochet, chain 2, and then it's parentheses because we're going to do that twice. So it'd be double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet in the next. So this is how it graphs using chart symbols. Double, chain 2, double, chain 2, double. But on the graph paper, it's just simply going to be 2 open squares. See how much easier it is just to use the graph paper when your vertical lines represent the double crochet and the horizontal lines are going to equal your chain stitches. Continuing with step number 6, we're going to discuss the closed mesh square or a solid mesh square. And that is what creates your letters, is the solid mesh. So written out is going to look like double in next double, 2 double in next chain 2 space, and then double in next double. Chart symbols are just double, 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 double. See how much easier the symbols are than writing it out like that? That's why I encourage everyone to learn these little charting symbols, and I've included those in my instructional videos for each individual stitch. Now on the graph paper, it's a closed mesh square is simply going to be an X. Okay, so we'll know that that is 4 double crochet because there's 1 double crochet on each end for your anchor stitches, and then in the middle would be your 2 double crochet. Step number 7. If you don't hear anything else that I say, hear this part because this is extremely important when you're learning how to work off of a chart. Each row on your graph paper is a row of crochet work, just like that. Crochet charts for filet crochet, they do not read from right to left for each row. Now, what do I mean? So you kind of snake back and forth when you're reading a crochet filet pattern. And what do I mean by that? So you'd go across here, right to left, and then the next row, you're going to go left to right reading the chart. You get to the end, you go up a row, right to left, come to the end, go up a row, left to right. Now, why are we doing it that way? Because you're flipping your work. When you turn your work, you're literally working backwards across what you just did. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So what happens if you don't go right, left, left, right? This is a disastrous mistake, and you're going to have to rip stitches and start over if you read your chart incorrectly. So, for instance, if we're doing the letter J, okay? So we're going to start over here, double, chain 2, double, and then 2 double, double, according to our pattern. We're going to read right to left. We're going to turn our work and read the chart left to right. Turn our work, read the chart right to left. Turn, next row, left to right. Right, left, right, left, right. Okay? Because you turn it is why you have to read it from left to right. Now, if you don't, if you read right to left for every row, just say, okay, I'm going right to left, turn my work. Now I'm going to read right to left again. Then I'm going to read right to left. If you do that every row, that's what it's going to look like. It's not going to be a J because it's not going to line up with your pattern because you're flipping it. I hope that makes sense. Test it for yourself before you jump into dive into doing a doily and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So it's very important that your chart is read right to left, turn, left to right, turn, right to left, turn, left to right. Hope that makes sense. Step 8. Now we are going to actually graft our chart. And we're going to start in the middle. Now, remember all that math we did back in step 5? Okay, so here's where that comes into play. So remember, let's see, where's my notes? We determined that the width of the letters plus 4 open mesh rows, being 1 open mesh row between each letter, equaled 30 columns. And so I know from counting my alphabet, got a glare, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's going to cut that first L in half. So I know that's where I'm going to start. Okay, so I'm just going to start kind of over here on the edge. I'm giving it enough room because I want to do some stuff with the taper, so I'm going to start as far to the right as I can. So we're going to start from the middle and go to the left, so we're going to start with that L. All right, let's just start with the half. We'll go right there. How tall is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's the height of our letters right there. So this column's going to be blank, and now I'm going to start with the E. How wide is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's going to be as tall as that L. Okay, and now skip a column and we're going to do the H. Okay, so there's the first half of the name of our chart. So now you need to determine how many open mesh rows do you want between the letters and the edge. And I always do 4 rows, but you can do however many you want. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm just going to put a couple of X's there so I can see what the edge is. I'll come back to that in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now I've established the width of my doily, and we've got the first half of our letters charted. Now I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We're going to chart the second half. I'm going to tear this out and start with a fresh sheet, but I'm going to start way over here on the left hand side. You'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. Let's see if we can kind of match it up a little bit. All right, so how many more we have on the L? 2. Okay, so that's the completion of our L. I kind of lined it up like that. I'll show you. And that might help you if I just leave it like that. Okay, now we're going to, wait a minute, there's one more. Is that right? No. I had it scooted too far. See why you need that eraser? Okay, H-E-L. Let's do another L. Oh, how big's the O? All right, and then the O. So let's see here. There we go. Now we have hello. So that's how that looks. Now we got to pencil in the chart for our edge. So I'm going to go ahead and real quick do that, and I'll come back. So that's what I have after I grafted my edge of my doily. Now I'm going to start the taper. And the reason this is in 2 halves is because you're going to turn it this way and work that direction. and you read it left, right, like we talked about earlier. All right, so let's start the taper on this part. So I'm going to come in 1. You know what? Let's just do it that way. Just like that. That looks nice. All right, so it should come out even on this side as well. All right, there we go. So we have a rough, well, not rough, that's our actual chart of our doily right there. Now what I always like to do, I usually put a little 3D flower there. I'm just going to do a little design down there on the end like that. All right, so it's just not so plain. Yep, I like that. All right. And that's how you get the graft put together for hello. Now we need to count to see how many we need to start with our starting chain. And what I always do, I just kind of put me a little note down here, starting chain equals, and now we're going to count. So remember when I said each open mesh counts as 3 stitches? I know you think in your mind that it's 4 because of the way our symbols look. Let me show you. Let me get it here. I know earlier when I said this, everybody was probably going, oh, that's 4, not 3. All right, so there's 3 stitches in each open mesh, and then the final double crochet is actually the beginning of the next mesh. So you're just going to go all the way across till you get to the end, and then you'll have one final anchor double crochet. So it's actually 3 stitches per square here. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 18 squares going across. So 18 times 3 is 54. Okay, then plus 1 for that anchor double crochet, that final double crochet, that makes 55. All right, now I need to compensate for my turning chain. So I always do a chain 3 for my turning chain, so plus 3 more is going to be 58, and that's how many my starting chain is going to be across, 58 chains.